This is one of those stories that's just hard to wrap your head around. It's a story about how staggering wealth and a contact list full of the world's most powerful people allowed a horrifying criminal enterprise to hide in plain sight for decades. We're talking about Jeffrey Epstein. And to really understand it, we have to start not with his life, but with the explosive mysteries surrounding his death.
See, the story doesn't just end with Epstein's arrest, it absolutely explodes with his death. On August 10th, 2019, he's found dead in his jail cell. The official story? Suicide. But almost immediately, a single question started circulating that honestly has never gone away. Was he silenced?
Okay, just think about the circumstances here. We're talking about one of America's most secure federal jails. And on this particular night, the security cameras pointing at his cell just malfunction. The two guards who were supposed to be watching him, they fall asleep. And the one man who could potentially bring down some of the most powerful people on the planet is found dead right before his trial. The official ruling was suicide, sure, but the sheer unlikeliness of it all just ignited this global theory. Epstein didn't kill himself.
To even begin to understand how any of this was possible, we have to rewind way back. Because before all the private jets and the mansions and the private islands, Jeffrey Epstein was a math teacher at a private school in the 1970s. So, the big question is, how on earth does a schoolteacher become a mysterious billionaire at the very center of a global scandal?
Well, his path to power really started on Wall Street. Epstein apparently had this unique talent for cozying up to the ultra-rich. He became the personal money manager for billionaires like Leslie Wexner, and that gave him two absolutely crucial things. First, a massive fortune from commissions, and second, an all-access pass into the world of the global elite.
And with that money, he didn't just buy nice things. He built an empire of incredibly opulent properties all over the world. But here's the thing. These weren't just homes. They were carefully chosen, often very isolated stages for his crimes. And the crown jewel of this dark empire was his very own private island.
This is Little St. James, but most people know it as Epstein Island. On the surface, it looks like a paradise, right? Every luxury you can imagine. But behind that beautiful facade, reports suggest a much more sinister purpose. With all these rumors of secret underground tunnels, were they for staff to move around unseen? Or maybe an escape route for his powerful guests? We don't know for sure.
So Epstein had the money, and he had these secluded locations. But what truly gave him his power, what made him seem totally untouchable for so long, was his network.
And this is where his private jet, which was infamously nicknamed the Lolita Express by the media, comes into the picture. Flight logs that have come out show it was basically a shuttle service for some of the world's most powerful people, flying them directly to Epstein and, yes, to his private island.
And the guest list, it's just staggering. It really reads like a who's who of global power. We're talking about former U.S. presidents like Bill Clinton, powerful figures like Donald Trump, and even British royalty. Prince Andrew's connection to Epstein became such a massive scandal, it literally forced him to step away from his royal duties. This wasn't just a social circle, it was a shield made of pure influence.
So this begs a really terrifying question. What was actually happening on these visits? When the FBI raided his mansion, they found stacks of CDs and photos. This, of course, fueled massive speculation that Epstein wasn't just entertaining his powerful friends, he was collecting dirt on them. Could this have been the true source of his power? Blackmail?
Because beneath all the glamour and the power trips was a truly horrific criminal enterprise. And it wasn't just Epstein acting alone, it was a well-oiled machine, with key players who made the whole system of abuse possible.
And there were two people right at the center of it all. You had Epstein, the financer, the one who used his money and power to build the entire network. But then you had Ghislaine Maxwell, his partner. You could call her the recruiter. As the daughter of a media tycoon, she moved in these elite circles and allegedly used her high social standing to find and groom vulnerable young girls, often luring them in with promises of jobs and a better life.
For years, this whole network operated with basically zero consequences. And the story of how the justice system completely failed his victims at first is, in its own way, just as shocking as the crimes themselves. It all started with one brave voice.
This timeline really shows you a whole decade of failed justice. It starts back in 2005 when a 14-year-old girl named Courtney Wild bravely filed the first police report. But instead of serious prison time, Epstein's high-powered lawyers got him this secret sweetheart plea deal in 2008, a deal that kept his victims completely in the dark and may have protected not just him, but his powerful associates too. It took 10 more years until 2018, when investigative journalism finally exposed the whole rotten deal for public outrage to force the system to act. Legal experts, victims, everyone was just stunned. The 2008 plea deal was so ridiculously lenient, so secretive, that one prosecutor later called it the biggest joke in judicial history. It felt like a deal designed not for justice, but to make a very, very big problem just quietly go away.
So what did that joke of a deal actually mean? Well, he was sentenced to 18 months in a county jail, but he only served 13 of them. And get this, during that time, he was allowed to leave the jail for his office on work release 6 days a week. For running a trafficking ring, his punishment was basically a curfew. But Epstein's death in 2019 wasn't the end of the story, not by a long shot. In a lot of ways, it was just the beginning of a massive public reckoning and a fight for the full truth that is still going on today.
So after Epstein's death, the dominoes really started to fall. The focus shifted to his accomplices. Ghislaine Maxwell was arrested. A compensation fund was set up that paid out over $121 million from his estate to his survivors. And, maybe most importantly, years of legal battles finally forced the release of thousands of previously sealed documents, what the world now knows as the Epstein files.
And this time around, there was no sweetheart deal. In 2022, Ghislaine Maxwell was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison. It was a powerful moment of accountability. The judge called her actions a horrific scheme that preyed on the vulnerable.
The unsealing of these Epstein files has been absolutely explosive. It's confirmed some of those high-level connections and revealed coded emails, like one that apparently referred to Prince Andrew by the codename The Invisible Man. But as shocking as all these revelations are, they really only represent the tiniest tip of the iceberg.
I mean, just let that number sink in for a second. Over 1 million pages of documents related to this case are still sealed, completely hidden from public view. It's at the heart of this huge legal battle. You've got transparency and justice on one side, and on the other, you have incredibly powerful people fighting tooth and nail to keep their secrets buried.
Ultimately, when you look at this entire sordid saga, it all comes down to this one powerful truth. Jeffrey Epstein is gone. Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison. But the shadow of their crime still hangs over some of the most powerful people in the world, proving that while wealth and influence can certainly delay justice, they can't make the truth disappear forever.
And that leaves us with the final haunting question. This whole story that began with the incredibly brave voice of one teenage girl has exposed this deep web of corruption at the highest levels of society. But with so much information still under lock and key, the biggest question is